Senior xenobiologist Kim paced nervously in the observation chamber, his three-fingered hands clasped tightly behind his back. The blue-tinged lights of the laboratory cast eerie shadows across his scaled face as he watched the human specimen through the supposedly unbreakable transparent barrier. Unlike the other aliens who maintained a safe distance, Kim approached the barrier, studying the creature with growing fascination and dread. The human male sat cross-legged on the floor of the containment unit, appearing deceptively calm. Kim had named him Subject 7 in his reports, but privately thought of him as the impossible one. For 3 cycles now, Kim had documented findings that defied explanation, findings that kept him awake during rest periods, findings that made his secondary heart flutter with anxiety. Recording log entry 42, Kim spoke softly into his wrist device. The human tissue samples continue to display regenerative properties beyond any known species in the Galactic database. A laceration that would require a Zentari 3 days to heal closes on human skin within hours. More disturbing is the cellular response to toxic compounds that should cause immediate system failure. Kim glanced at the data scrolling on his tablet. The numbers didn't lie, yet they seemed impossible. He had personally introduced 17 different lethal compounds to isolated human tissue samples. Each time, the cells had adapted, neutralized the threat or simply regrown. The door to the observation chamber slid open with a soft hiss. Science Director Park entered, his ceremonial rank bands glittering against his grey uniform. Unlike Kim's lean frame, Park was stocky with prominent ridges above his eyes, signs of his desert-evolved ancestry. "I received your urgent request. For council review," Park said, not bothering with formal greetings. "These claims are extraordinary, xenobiologist Kim." Kim gestured toward his workstation, where holographic displays showed cellular activity in real time. "With respect, Director, they are not claims but documented observations. Look here." He pointed to a simulation of the human's nerve transmission speed. "These reaction times exceed even the enhanced soldiers of the Vega Coalition." Park waved, a dismissive hand. "Measurement errors. Your equipment was calibrated for standard biological parameters." "I recalibrated 3 times, Kim insisted, feeling his neck frills rise with frustration. "And that doesn't explain this." He switched the display to show a 3-dimensional model of the human's muscular structure. "The strength-to-mass ratio violates biological principles. Their muscle fiber density should make movement impossible, yet they move with unexpected grace." Park leaned closer, his skepticism momentarily replaced by scientific curiosity. "Perhaps their homeworld's gravity explains some of these adaptations?" "I considered that," Kim said, pulling up another display. "But even accounting for gravitational differences, these capabilities suggest deliberate engineering. No natural evolutionary process would select for this combination of traits." The human on the other side of the barrier suddenly stood, causing both scientists to flinch. Subject 7 stretched lazily, muscles rippling beneath his skin, then walked to the water dispenser in his cell. "What's most concerning," Kim continued, lowering his voice despite knowing the human couldn't hear them, "is their response to stress, hormones. When threatened, their adrenal system triggers a cascade effect that temporarily enhances already impressive physical capabilities. It's as if they were designed with combat subroutines." Park's upper lip curled, revealing pointed teeth. "You believe someone created these creatures as weapons?" "The evidence supports no other conclusion," Kim said. "Their genetic code contains sequences too precise, too perfectly aligned to be random mutation. Someone built these beings for a purpose." "Preposterous," Park huffed. "Next you'll tell me the ancient myths of the destroyer species are true." He turned away from the displays. "I'll include your findings in my report, but with notation indicating probable equipment malfunction. The Council has more pressing concerns than wild theories about engineered species." Kim felt his chest deflate with disappointment. He had expected skepticism but not outright dismissal. At least authorize additional security measures. "If I'm right about their capabilities, the containment field can hold a rampaging Krolodon," Park interrupted. "It's more than sufficient for a single mammalian biped." After Park left, Kim remained in the lab well past his designated shift. He ran additional tests, comparing the human's DNA with thousands of species in the database, searching for any natural parallel. None existed. As the station's night cycle began, Kim reluctantly prepared to leave. He gave one final glance at Subject 7, who sat motionless in meditation. Something about the human's calm demeanor troubled Kim more than any test result. It was as if the creature was waiting, assessing, planning. Kim was halfway to his quarters when the station alarms blared to life. Red emergency lights pulsed along the corridors as the computerized voice announced, "Security breach in Containment Section 4. All personnel evacuate immediately." Heart racing, Kim ran toward the security hub instead of away. He arrived to find chaos, officers shouting into communication devices, screens showing damaged sections of the station. What happened? Kim demanded as he spotted Officer June at the command console. June's normally immaculate uniform was torn, and green blood trickled from a cut above his eye. The human escaped. It did something to the power coupling for the containment field, something that should be physically impossible, given the materials at its disposal. The main screen switched to surveillance footage. Kim watched in horror as Subject 7 moved with blinding speed through the corridor, encountering 3 armed guards. What happened next defied belief. The human didn't slow down. It dodged energy, blasts with unnatural precision, closing the distance to the first guard in seconds. One quick strike to the throat, and the guard collapsed. The human seized the fallen guard's weapon, but instead of using it conventionally, stripped it down in seconds and used components to disable the second guard's neural system. The third guard managed to activate a shock barrier, but the human passed through it, as if it were merely unpleasant rather than lethal, breaking the guard's arm in 3 places with a casual twist. The security feed cut to static. Moments later, alerts indicated a small transport vessel had been stolen from the docking bay. Director Park burst into the security hub, his usual composure shattered. "How did it break through reinforced containment?" he demanded, echoing Kim's earlier warnings. "Those barriers are designed to withstand concentrated weapons fire." Kim watched the last images of the human escape replay on the screen. Subject 7 had looked directly at the camera before leaving, and Kim could have sworn there was a glint of something knowing in those alien eyes. "That's what I've been trying to tell you," Kim said quietly, his scientific vindication overshadowed by newfound terror. "They're designed for this, and now one of them is loose, carrying knowledge of our station, our technology, and our vulnerabilities. Back to its kind." The implications hung in the air like a toxic cloud. If one human could do this much damage, what could an entire planet of them accomplish if they turned their attention to the stars? The sleek research vessel Silent Observer drifted through Earth's atmosphere, its advanced cloaking technology rendering it invisible to human detection systems. Lead researcher Lee stood at the command center, her slender form silhouetted against the viewscreen displaying the sprawling cityscape of New York below. Unlike the military vessels in their fleet, the Silent Observer was designed for stealth and science, not combat. Its curved hull housed the most advanced xenobiology lab in the Confederation. "Maintain altitude at 3,000 meters, Lee," instructed the pilot. "And remember absolute stealth protocol. After what happened with Subject 7, we can't risk another direct contact." The escape of the human test subject had sent shockwaves through the Confederation. No species had ever breached containment on a Class 9 research station before. The Council, finally taking xenobiologist Kim's warning seriously, had authorized this unprecedented mission to Earth. Lee's team consisted of 12 specialists, each selected for their expertise in fields ranging from genetic analysis to anthropology. Their mission was clear: determine if humans were naturally evolved or artificially created, and assess the potential threat they pose to galactic security. "Landing team, prepare for deployment," Lee announced over the ship's communication system. "Remember, collection only, no interaction with the native population." In the preparation chamber, 4 researchers donned their biomimetic suits, technology that would make them appear human to casual observation. The suits were uncomfortable, forcing their 4-limbed bodies into the strange bipedal configuration of humans, but they were essential for the mission. Lee joined them, adjusting her own disguise. "We'll start with the urban center," Then move to the rural areas on the western continent. We need diverse genetic samples. As the landing party deployed, analyst Sung remained aboard the ship. His specialty wasn't field research but interpretation of data and cultural artifacts. While the others collected biological samples, he immersed himself in human information networks, absorbing their languages, history, and mythology with remarkable speed. The field team returned 12 hours later with hundreds of covertly collected samples, discarded hair strands from brushes, skin cells from seating areas, saliva, traces from eating establishments. Each sample was carefully catalogued by geographical location and apparent ethnic grouping. Lee worked tirelessly in the lab, her four-fingered hands moving with practiced precision across the genetic sequencing equipment. Days turned into weeks, as the silent observer moved methodically around the planet, collecting samples from every major population center. The picture emerging from their research became increasingly disturbing. "I've completed the comparative analysis," Lee announced, during the team's daily briefing. She projected a holographic display of human DNA alongside the genetic structures of other evolved species. "These sequences here and here," she highlighted several sections with a gesture, "show hallmarks of artificial manipulation." The room fell silent as the implications sank in. "Natural evolution leaves genetic scars, remnants of mutations and adaptations over millions of years," Lee continued. "Human DNA lacks these markers in key areas. Instead, we see evidence of precise insertion points and sequences too perfect to have occurred randomly." "Could another explanation exist?" asked Medical Officer Jin. "Perhaps their evolution simply followed a different path than other species we've studied." Lee shook her head. "The mathematical probability against that is astronomical. But there's more." She switched the display to show environmental testing results. "Humans demonstrate adaptability that defies evolutionary logic. They can survive in temperature ranges that would kill most species, endure radiation levels that should cause cellular breakdown, and recover from physical trauma that would be fatal to comparably sized organisms. Their psychological resilience is equally baffling," added behavioral specialist Kwan. "They can endure extreme sleep deprivation, psychological stress, and social isolation far beyond what any naturally evolved social species should tolerate. It's as if they were designed to survive crisis situations." Analyst Sung stood up, his normally reserved demeanor animated with excitement. "I may have found something relevant in their historical records." He took control of the display, showing images of ancient human texts and artifacts. "Across nearly all human cultures, there are consistent myths about divine beings creating humans," Sung explained. "The Sumerian tablets speak of the Anunnaki, who created humans from clay. Egyptian texts reference gods breathing life into mankind. Similar stories appear in cultures with no historical contact. Primitive peoples often invent creation myths," Jin objected. "True," Sung agreed. "But these stories share specific details that align with our genetic findings." He highlighted passages from various texts. Many myths specifically mention the gods altering or enhancing humans after initial creation, which corresponds to the genetic insertion points we've identified. The display shifted to show ancient stone carvings depicting tall beings performing procedures on human figures. These images from widely separated cultures show remarkably similar themes: advanced beings manipulating early humans. Lee studied the images with growing concern. "Are you suggesting prehistoric genetic engineering? That some advanced species visited Earth and created or modified humans?" "The evidence supports no other conclusion," Sung replied firmly. "Someone made these creatures. The question is, for what purpose?" The meeting chamber erupted in overlapping conversations as team members debated the implications. Lee raised her hand for silence. "We need more information before reporting to the Council," she decided. "If humans are engineered beings, we need to understand their intended function." The following days saw the research team push their investigation further. They collected deep tissue samples from sleeping humans using nanoprobes, analyzed brain activity patterns, and even extracted specimens from secure medical facilities. During a collection mission to a remote military installation, the team made Their most alarming discovery yet. These soldiers have been exposed to chemical weapons during their deployment, Lee reported, as she analyzed fresh samples. According to our baseline understanding of human physiology, they should have suffered complete system failure. Instead, their bodies adapted. Their cells actually restructured to neutralize the toxins. Could this be an isolated mutation? Jin suggested hopefully. No, Lee said, her voice tight with concern. I'm seeing similar adaptive mechanisms across numerous samples, just usually dormant, until triggered by extreme conditions. It's as if humans were designed with backup systems and adaptive protocols that activate under threat. Back on the ship, Sung called an urgent meeting. The normally composed analyst's eyes were wide, his scales tinged blue with excitement or fear. I've decrypted references in ancient Sumerian texts to a place called Edin, where the gods supposedly performed their creation work, he explained. Cross-referencing with geological data suggests a location in what humans now call the Arctic Circle. Lee felt a chill that had nothing to do with the ship's temperature. You believe the original engineering facility might still exist? The texts describe it as being hidden beneath the eternal ice where the sun does not reach, Sung confirmed. And I found classified human military reports about anomalous energy readings from that exact region, readings they couldn't explain. With their current technology, Lee made her decision quickly. Set course for the Arctic coordinates. If there's evidence of who created humans and why, we need to find it before reporting to the Council. As the silent observer changed course, Lee stared at the genetic sequences, still displayed on her screen. One question burned in her mind. What kind of conflict would require the creation of a species with such remarkable survival capabilities? And what would happen if these engineered humans ever realized their full potential? The massive command vessel, Celestial Authority, led the fleet of 20 Confederation warships into Earth's orbit, their sleek hulls gleaming in the sunlight, as they arranged themselves in perfect formation. From the main viewport of his flagship, Fleet Commander Han watched the blue planet turning slowly beneath them, his face expressionless despite the gravity of the mission. Tactical assessment, Han ordered, his voice carrying across the command bridge. Officer Tay stepped forward, projecting a holographic display of Earth's defensive capabilities. Primitive weapons systems, Commander. Nuclear missiles, kinetic, bombardment satellites, and energy weapons in early development stages. Nothing that poses a significant threat to our shields. Han nodded slightly. And their response to our arrival? Global panic, as expected, Communications Specialist Bay reported. Their military forces are on highest alert. We're detecting numerous missile launches, but none have left their atmosphere. They appear to be waiting for orders. Open a direct channel to their united governing body, Han instructed. It's time we had our answers. Within hours, the human representatives agreed to meet aboard a neutral space station, hastily assembled between Earth and its moon. Han selected a small delegation to accompany him. Xenobiologist Kim, whose warnings about humans had initiated this intervention. Security Officer Choi, commanding a squad of elite guards. And Diplomat 1, experienced in first contact scenarios. The humans sent 5 representatives, political and military leaders from their major powers. They appeared remarkably calm, given the circumstances, which only reinforced Han's suspicions about their unnatural nature. The meeting chamber was designed with neutral atmospheric conditions and gravity set to Earth standard. Han felt uncomfortably heavy as he entered, but maintained his dignified posture. "We appreciate your willingness to discuss matters peacefully," began the human representative, an older male with silver hair and a demeanor that suggested authority. "Though I must express our concern at the show of military force. We have made no aggressive actions toward your people." Han studied the human carefully before responding. "The Galactic Confederation does not typically approach developing worlds. With a battle fleet, your case is exceptional." "How so?" asked another human, her dark eyes narrowing slightly. Han gestured to Kim, who activated a holographic display showing human DNA alongside comparative samples from other species. "Your species exhibits biological traits that cannot occur naturally," Han stated flatly. "Genetic markers in your DNA show clear signs of artificial engineering. Your cellular structure, regenerative capabilities, and adaptive immune responses defy evolutionary patterns seen in all other naturally evolved species. Explain your origins. The humans exchanged glances that seemed genuinely confused. With respect, the silver-haired leader responded, humans evolved on Earth over millions of years. We have fossil records, evolutionary biology, an entire scientific understanding of our development. Kim stepped forward. Your fossil record shows sudden, inexplicable leaps in development. Your supposed evolutionary ancestors appear one way, and then your species appears with dramatic differences that should have required millions of years of transitional forms. That's simply how evolution works sometimes, a human scientist in their delegation argued. Punctuated equilibrium is a well-established theory. Not at the genetic level we're observing, Kim countered. The precision in your DNA suggests deliberate design, not random mutation and natural selection. The diplomatic exchange grew increasingly tense as the humans appeared genuinely offended by the suggestion they were artificial creations. Han watched them carefully, noting their micro-expressions and physiological responses. Either they were exceptional actors or they truly didn't know. Diplomat 1 attempted a more conciliatory approach. Perhaps your ancestors were aware of your origins. Many of your ancient texts reference gods creating humans. We believe these may be records of your actual creation by an advanced species. Those are myths and religious texts, not historical documents, the human scientist objected. The debate continued for hours, growing increasingly heated as neither side would concede. Han was beginning to consider more direct approaches when a piercing alarm cut through the tension. "Commander!" Officer Choi's communication device projected an urgent message. "We have a critical situation aboard the Celestial Authority. The primary reactor has experienced a containment failure." Han rose immediately. "How severe?" "Catastrophic, sir. Radiation levels are rising exponentially in the engine sections. Emergency protocols have failed." "Evacuate all personnel from the affected areas," Han ordered. "Begin emergency shutdown procedures." "The automatic systems are offline," Choi reported, her voice tight with concern. "Manual intervention is required, but radiation levels are already beyond survivable parameters for our species." The human delegates had been listening intently. The silver-haired leader stepped forward. "Commander Han, we have specialists trained for radiation emergencies. Allow us to assist." Han's first instinct was to refuse. Allowing these potential bioweapons onto his flagship seemed like tactical suicide. But the alternative was losing his command vessel and potentially thousands of crew members. "Our radiation levels would be lethal to your kind as well," Kim interjected. The human scientist shook her head. "Humans can withstand higher radiation doses than many assume, especially with proper protection. We have teams specifically trained for nuclear disasters." Against his better judgment, Han accepted their offer. Within 30 minutes, a shuttle carrying 12 human specialists docked with the Celestial Authority. The delegation watched via video feed as the humans were briefed on the ship's systems and the nature of the emergency. Security Officer Choi stood beside Han, monitoring the humans' life signs as they prepared to enter the highly radioactive engine compartment. "The radiation levels in the chamber have reached 800 sieverts," she reported. "No known species can survive more than momentary exposure to such conditions." The humans donned their protective suits, primitive by Confederation standards, and entered the reactor chamber. What happened next stunned the watching aliens into silence. The humans moved with remarkable efficiency, working methodically to stabilize the reactor despite the deadly radiation permeating their inadequate protective gear. Their vital signs showed stress but no signs of the rapid cellular breakdown that should be occurring. "They should be dead already," Kim whispered, watching their life signs with scientific fascination. "Their cells should be rupturing from radiation damage. Their suits must be more effective than we thought," Choi suggested. "No," Kim replied, pointing to the radiation readings. "Their suits are barely functioning now. They're receiving near-direct exposure. After 43 minutes of exposure that would have killed any Confederation species in seconds, the humans successfully stabilized the reactor. When they emerged from the chamber, they were visibly exhausted but still functioning." In the medical bay, scans revealed the truth. The humans had suffered severe radiation damage, but their cells were already beginning to repair themselves. What should have been fatal exposure was, for them, merely debilitating. Han stood in silent observation as the human specialists were treated by both their doctors and curious Confederation medical officers. He turned to find Kim beside him. "Now, do you believe me?" Kim asked quietly. "They were built for survival at all costs. No natural species could endure what we just witnessed." Han watched as one of the humans sat up, already recovering enough to check on his teammates despite his own injuries. "If they were designed as weapons," Han said slowly, "they are the most formidable I have ever encountered. The most concerning part," Kim added, "is that they don't seem to know what they are. Whatever created humans built them with extraordinary capabilities but hid that truth from them." Han's gaze hardened. "Which means somewhere someone placed a species of living weapons on that planet and left them to develop on their own. The question is, when are they meant to be activated and against whom?" As the human specialists were thanked and returned to Earth, Han made his decision. The full report would go to the Confederation Council immediately, along with his recommendation. The humans must be contained before they realize their true nature and purpose. No matter what it took, the specialized excavation vessel Frozen Seeker hovered 50 meters above the Arctic ice sheet, its thermal shields generating a constant shimmer in the frigid air. Though the ship was small compared to the warships in orbit, its advanced drilling and archaeological equipment made it perfect for this mission. The coordinates analyst Sung had uncovered led them to this desolate location, a place humans rarely visited, buried beneath layers of ancient ice. Archaeologist Yoon stood at the control panel, her breath visible despite the ship's heating systems. The Arctic winds howled outside, temperatures dropping to lethal levels as the polar night engulfed them. She had specialized in recovering alien artifacts for 20 years, but nothing had prepared her for this mission's importance. "Thermal scan complete," announced Technician Min from his station, confirming artificial structure 700 meters below surface. Definitely not human-made. The energy signature matches no known Earth technology. Yoon felt a mixture of scientific excitement and dread. "Begin drilling sequence. Use the narrow beam to minimize detection from human satellites." The Frozen Seeker's specialized drill activated, sending a concentrated beam of energy into the ice. Unlike crude human drills, this technology manipulated molecular bonds, literally phasing the ice out of existence, rather than melting it. A perfect tunnel formed beneath them, descending into the darkness. "Structure reached," Min reported after nearly an hour, establishing environmental bubble. The ship slowly lowered itself into the tunnel, deploying field generators that kept the surrounding ice from collapsing. When they reached the bottom, the scanners revealed a massive complex embedded in the frozen ground, easily 10 times larger than their vessel. Yoon led the exploration team personally, selecting 3 specialists to accompany her. They wore environmental suits designed for extreme conditions. Though scans indicated the structure maintained a stable internal environment, despite being inactive for what must have been thousands of years. "Stay alert," Yoon instructed as they approached the entrance, a massive door covered in unknown symbols. "We don't know if defense systems remain active." Min analyzed the door mechanism through his portable scanner. "The technology is incredibly advanced yet somehow familiar, almost like a primitive version of our own genetic lock systems." After several tense minutes, Min bypassed the security system. The massive door slid open with surprising silence, revealing a darkened corridor beyond. As they stepped inside, motion sensors detected their presence, and soft blue lighting activated along the floor and ceiling. "Incredible," breathed Yoon, studying the architecture. "The design resembles Confederation aesthetics from the pre-Unity era." The team moved cautiously through the facility, documenting everything with their scanners. The complex was enormous: laboratories, living quarters, and what appeared to be manufacturing chambers stretched out in all directions. But it was the central chamber that left them stunned into silence. Arranged in concentric circles were hundreds of stasis pods, most empty, but a few still containing preserved organic material. Against the far wall stood a massive genetic sequencing apparatus, its design sophisticated even by current Confederation standards. "This is it," Yoon whispered, her professional detachment momentarily forgotten. "This is where they made them." Min approached one of the active data terminals, his fingers moving quickly across the interface. "The system is still operational," he reported with surprise, transferring data to the ship's computers for analysis. While Min worked, Yoon examined the stasis pods. Inside one, she discovered preserved tissue samples labeled in an unfamiliar script. Another contained what appeared to be early prototypes of human organs, hearts, lungs, brains, but with subtle differences from modern human anatomy. "I've accessed their records," Min announced several hours later, his voice tight with tension. "You need to see this immediately." The team gathered around as Min projected a holographic display from his scanner. Complex genetic sequences rotated in the air, alongside what appeared to be progress reports in an ancient language. "I've only translated portions," Min explained, "but the meaning is clear." This facility was operated by a species called the Predecessors. According to these records, they were engaged in a bitter war with... He paused, double-checking his translation. "With who?" Yoon pressed. "With the early Confederation," Min finished, his scales paling. "Not our current Confederation, but our evolutionary ancestors from 2 million years ago." The implications hit Yoon like a physical blow. "Are you saying humans were created by our ancient enemies?" Min nodded grimly. "These records indicate humans were engineered as weapons, created by the predecessors as the ultimate biological weapon, against our ancestors. But humans don't seem to know this," objected another team member. "They believe they evolved naturally." "That was intentional," Min explained, displaying more translated text. "The predecessors designed humans to develop independently, unaware of their purpose. They seeded early Earth with proto-humans, programmed with specific genetic triggers that would activate over thousands of generations." Yoon approached another terminal, this one displaying what appeared to be evolutionary projections. "There's more here. It shows planned development stages for the human species. They're not finished evolving." "Correct," Min confirmed, his voice grim. "The human genome contains activation sequences, genetic code designed to unlock new capabilities as their species develops. According to these records, humans are approximately 94% through their programmed evolution." "What happens at 100%? Yoon asked. Though she feared she already knew the answer, Min displayed the final projections. Complete cognitive rewiring, enhanced telepathic abilities, cellular structures capable of manipulating matter at the quantum C level. Essentially, they become living weapons of unprecedented power. The team worked through the night, extracting everything possible from the ancient facility. When they returned to the Frozen Seeker, they transmitted their findings directly to the Confederation Council via secure quantum channel. The discovery sent shockwaves through the Confederation leadership. An emergency session was convened, with representatives from all 17 member species attending virtually or in person. The normally deliberate council moved with unprecedented speed, reviewing the evidence presented by Yoon's team alongside Fleet Commander Han's reports. From the Council chamber aboard the Celestial Authority, Yoon watched tensions escalate as the implications became clear. Director Park, now fully convinced of the threat, led the argument for immediate action. "The evidence is irrefutable," Park stated, addressing the assembled council. "Humans were engineered specifically to destroy us. They are not a naturally evolved species, but living weapons programmed by our ancient enemies." "But the predecessors themselves are extinct," countered Councillor Gam, one of the few voices urging caution. "They lost their war. These humans had no part in that ancient conflict." "Irrelevant," Park dismissed. "The programming remains. Each generation of humans grows more advanced, moving closer to their final form. The activation sequences in their DNA continue to unlock, precisely as designed." The debate raged for hours, with data from the Arctic facility analyzed repeatedly. The human representatives naturally were excluded from these deliberations. "We've analyzed their technological progress," reported Science Advisor Jin. "Their development follows an exponential curve unlike any natural species. They advanced from primitive tools to space travel in less than 10,000 years. At their current rate, they will match our technology within 2 centuries. And once the final genetic sequences activate, added Min, they won't need technology. The predecessors designed them to become something beyond conventional biological limitations. Yoon watched as fear gradually overcame ethical concerns among the council members. Even those initially sympathetic to humans began to see them as the existential threat they potentially represented. The final vote was cast with solemn gravity. 12 in favor of human containment through extinction, 3 opposed. "We cannot allow these walking weapons to reach completion," argued Director Park in his closing statement. "The final evolutionary stage could threaten all galactic life. The predecessors may be gone, but their vengeance weapon remains, counting down to activation." As the council adjourned, Yoon found herself standing beside xenobiologist Kim, whose early warnings about humans had been tragically validated. "I didn't want to be right," Kim said quietly, watching the tactical plans being prepared for Earth's sterilization. "They're remarkable creatures in many ways." Yoon nodded, thinking of the human specialists who had risked their lives to save the Confederation ship during the reactor breach. "They don't know what they are. They think they're just another evolved species." "That's the cruelest part of their design," Kim replied. "The predecessors made them innocent of their own purpose, but that doesn't make them any less dangerous." As the Confederation fleet prepared for the grim task ahead, Yoon returned to her research station, studying the final pieces of data recovered from the Arctic facility. Something about the activation sequences troubled her, a pattern she couldn't quite identify, but which suggested the predecessor's plan might be more complex than simple destruction. The question that haunted her was whether the Council would give her enough time to understand it before the weapons were deployed. Earth's sterilization was scheduled to begin in just 24 hours. The massive sterilization fleet assembled in Earth orbit, a grim armada of destruction unlike anything the Confederation had deployed in centuries. 97 warships arranged, in perfect battle formation, their planet-cracker weapons powered and ready. The weapons had been designed for breaking apart uninhabited moons for mining, but would serve equally well to shatter Earth's crust, rendering the planet uninhabitable. Fleet Commander Han stood on the bridge of the Celestial Authority, watching the final preparations with a face carved from stone. He had overseen planetary evacuations before, but never an extinction event. The weight of 3 billion sentient lives pressed down on him, yet the Council's decision was clear. The human threat must be eliminated before their final evolutionary stage activated. "All ships report ready, Commander," Security Officer Choi announced, her voice deliberately neutral. "Planetary sterilization can commence on your order." Han nodded, then turned to the communications officer. "Begin the final warning broadcast. Give Earth's governments 1 hour to prepare their people." Before the broadcast could begin, a priority communication alert flashed across the main screen. "Commander," the communications officer reported with surprise, "we're receiving a transmission from Earth. They're requesting an emergency audience with the Confederation Council." "Denied," snapped Director Park, who had remained aboard to oversee the operation. "This is simply a delay tactic." Han hesitated. The Council had given him authority to proceed as he saw fit, and something about the urgency of the request caught his attention. "What specifically are they requesting?" "They claim to have crucial information about their origins that we've misunderstood," the officer replied. "The transmission originates from a remote facility in their Himalayan region, not from any recognized government." Against Park's objections, Han made his decision. "Grant them 10 minutes, no more." The view screen shifted to show an elderly human male seated in what appeared to be an ancient stone chamber. Behind him stood several other humans of varying ages, all wearing simple brown robes. Unlike the government representatives they had met previously, these humans projected a sense of calm certainty that Han found unsettling. "I am Keeper Jin-Ho of the Eternal Flame," the elderly human began without preamble. "We represent the unbroken line of knowledge stretching back to humanities. Beginning. We request safe passage to your command ship to present evidence you must consider before you destroy our world." Park stepped forward. Your primitive spacecraft couldn't reach our altitude before the sterilization begins. The human smiled slightly. We have our ways, Director Park. We request coordinates for docking. Something in the human's confidence gave Han pause. Against his better judgment, he authorized a small shuttle from Earth to approach. When it arrived, Han was stunned. The craft was clearly not of human manufacture. Though ancient and weathered, its design incorporated elements of predecessor technology they had only just discovered in the Arctic facility. 6 robed humans were escorted to the command deck under heavy guard. The eldest, Keeper Jin Ho, carried an ornate metallic cylinder. Security scans indicated it contained nothing threatening, merely information storage technology of surprising sophistication. As the fleet prepared for our destruction, we felt it was finally time to reveal what we have safeguarded for generations, the Keeper began, his English translated perfectly by the ship's systems. We've known about our engineered origins for centuries. Our ancient texts weren't just myths, they were records preserved and passed down through a selected lineage of keepers. Director Park scoffed openly. If you've known all along, why pretend otherwise when we first approached you? Because most of humanity doesn't know, another robed figure explained. And because we needed to understand your intentions before revealing ourselves, the Keeper placed the cylinder on the conference table. It activated at his touch, projecting holographic images and text in the ancient predecessor language. You found one facility in the Arctic, Jin Ho continued. There were 7 across Earth, each specializing in different aspects of human engineering. What you discovered was merely the weapons development center, but it wasn't the control facility. That has remained under our protection in Tibet for 50,000 years. Han studied the projected data with growing astonishment. You claim to have maintained predecessor technology for 50 millennia. Not just maintained, the Keeper corrected. Understood, the predecessors didn't abandon us or die out as you believe. They merged with us. The holographic display shifted to show genetic sequences alongside historical scenes, advanced beings working alongside early humans, gradually breeding into the population until they disappeared as a distinct species. Then you know you were created for war, said Commander Han, created specifically to destroy our ancestors. We were designed for survival, the human corrected gently. The complete records show that the predecessors realized they had made a mistake in their war with your ancestors. Both civilizations were facing extinction. Rather than create a weapon to win their war, they created us as an alternative. The display showed the predecessors' final plans, a species engineered not merely for combat, but for adaptation to any environment, any challenge. The supposed activation sequences weren't triggering a final weapon form, but enabling survival adaptations that could be shared with other species. Those predecessors who merged with us left behind guardians, the first keepers, to ensure we wouldn't repeat their mistakes, Jin Ho explained. We were meant to evolve alongside the survivors of your ancestors, eventual partners rather than destroyers. Han turned to Kim, who was examining the genetic data with intense concentration. Is this possible? Could we have misinterpreted the Arctic facility's records? The Arctic data was incomplete, Kim admitted. These sequences do suggest a different interpretation. Not weapons activation, but symbiotic adaptation, the ability to transfer beneficial traits to other species. For hours, the human keepers presented their evidence. They demonstrated abilities beyond normal human parameters, not weapons capabilities, but healing techniques, environmental adaptations, and cognitive patterns that complemented rather than threatened Confederation species. We propose an alternative to our extinction, said Jin Ho finally. Allow a trial period. Let humans serve the Confederation as emergency responders for situations too dangerous for your species. Let us prove our worth not as weapons, but as guardians. The debate within the Council lasted 3 days. Many remained suspicious, but the human keeper's evidence could not be dismissed. Finally, a compromise was reached, a 6-month probationary period for a limited number of humans to demonstrate their intended purpose. The first test came sooner than expected. A mining colony on Proxima Centauri's 4th planet experienced catastrophic atmospheric contamination from an unknown biological agent. The environment turned corrosive, killing 30 colonists before evacuation began. The atmospheric toxicity exceeded survivable levels for all Confederation species. A team of human specialists, led by a young woman trained by the Keepers, volunteered for the rescue mission. The Confederation scientists watched in amazement as the humans' bodies adapted to the toxic atmosphere in real time, neutralizing the contaminants through their enhanced immune systems. Over the following months, human teams responded to disasters across Confederation space: radiation leaks, toxic spills, extreme environment collapses, and disease outbreaks. Their capabilities, designed for adaptation rather than destruction, proved invaluable in scenarios that would have meant certain death for other species. 6 months to the day after the sterilization fleet had been prepared, the Council reconvened to evaluate the human experiment. "They've saved thousands of lives," reported Officer Choi, who had overseen the human integration program. "They've demonstrated capabilities in environments that would kill any natural species, yet show no aggression or territorial instincts toward Confederation citizens. If anything, they seem programmed for self-sacrifice." Xenobiologist Kim presented his updated analysis. "Their genetic structure does include programmed evolution, but not toward weapons capability. Each generation adapts more efficiently to environmental challenges, then passes those adaptations to subsequent generations at an accelerated rate. More importantly, we've confirmed they can share these adaptations with other species through a form of symbiotic genetic transfer." The Council voted 15-0 to officially recognize humans as a protected species and invite Earth to become a probationary member of the Confederation with a specialized role as disaster response specialists. In his private laboratory, Kim completed his final report on the human species. He officially amended his original classification, changing human classified as bioengineered nightmare to human classified as bioengineered guardian. His final note read, "Perhaps the most terrifying thing about humans isn't that they were designed for war, but that despite their nightmarish capabilities, they chose another path entirely. In their capacity to adapt not merely for survival, but for protection of others, they represent the most successful biological engineering project in known history. Their creators built perfect weapons, but somewhere in their development, humans transcended their design. They became something, both more and less than weapons. They became guardians by choice rather than programming." As Kim filed his report, a proximity alert notified him that a human delegation was arriving to discuss the genetic adaptation protocols that might one day allow Confederation citizens to survive environments currently lethal to them. The project to merge the best adaptations of all species had begun, just as the ancient predecessors had apparently intended. The ND